I wonder if there's anything we could do about Pyro's tent here.
No. Like, why is my hatchet
Are you
look
able
like a
to?
saw?
Are you able to take the tent?
No, that's okay. I mean, we can build over it if we need to.
We could, but let's say we want to put a door right here. It's going to be right, and I don't
We'll build,
I
and
almost
then
kind
we
of
will figure that part out later.
right. But I have no problem building and figuring it out later. It's something as a consequence to a change the devs made recently.
Oh, you want to talk about it? Okay, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think that it's something to talk about because like, the devs made a change recently that made it so that tents can now be placed on deed. Right before you couldn't place a tent on deed, and when it was off deed, it would decay. Right, and the newbie tents would decay pretty quickly, and then they made a change so that you can now place tents on deed, which means that the deed will prevent them from decaying. But now we're in this situation where somebody has placed their tent. This is Pyro. He's actually a citizen of our deed, but he stopped playing, and now the tent is here, and it will never decay, and we can't pick it up, and it's a permanent fixture on our deed now. I'm wondering if they need to do something, like they need to change something about the way that the permissions work with tents, so that a deed owner has the ability to pick up a tent that's been placed on their deed.
How about...
Yeah, and you can't bash it like this.
Okay, so what are the solutions? You don't want them to be able to pick it up, right? Because
right, because some new player.
Because how about if a player put down their tent, like Pyro, and he put some items in it that he wants? You know, I'm basically taking all of his items. That takes away the whole point of the tent. But how about if the deed owner has the ability to push it?
Off deed, yeah.
You can push
That
it
might-
wherever you
that might
want
work.
on deed. You can push it off the deed, but then once it's off the deed, then it becomes really slow to push it because you have that 5-second timer.
There's also another issue that relates to this, and that's and by the way, this only happens when like you have a citizen of your deed who puts down their tent and then let's say stops playing, never to play again. The same thing would happen if a citizen of your deed builds a house on your deed and then stops playing, never to play again. Now that house cannot be
solution to
removed
that,
by
though.
the deed owner.
Yeah.
What is it?
So the deed owner, and we ran into that not in Twilight. So you have to destroy all of the ceilings and walls, and then the house disappears.
You have the ability to do that?
And the floors. Yeah, we did that. Took a long time, but we did it.
Right, but
Although
Bugard,
I think it's because we had permissions to do it.
right, you might have to have permissions. Like the person might set the permission so you can't do anything to their house. And Bugard, you're right. Like, but you also want the ability to be able to push it off deed so that it eventually decays, right? Like, yeah, I kind of feel like the deed owner should have the ability to move things like this off their deed. Like, another thing would be like carts. Like, 'cause
It
if
would be a
somebody
good
takes their cart-
compromise. Yeah.
Like, what happens if somebody takes their cart and just logs off with the cart on your deed and it has horses hitched to it? And then never to return. You're stuck with a cart now on your deed. Let's say they put it right in front of your door.
These are the actual consequences.
Okay, so
for
GMs
the
would come in
system.
and intervene.
Yeah. And basically what happens is it never used to be like this. Like you could potentially move basically anything like on your deed like way back in the day. But because we've been adding more permissions and more permissions for players so that their stuff doesn't get touched as much as before, it gets rid of some griefing, and then the side effect basically is things like what you're talking about, like the tents, like the carts being on the deed, and the solution right now to all of this stuff is getting a GM, right? That's the solution that they have. Could they potentially strike that balance between having players having you feel like you own your stuff and that your stuff's not going to get touched if you leave it on someone's deed, like a cart and the contents of it, or your horse, but still give the control of the deed owner to have control over their land. And I don't know. There used to be a whole number of cool systems that they decided to not use. What would you think about? This might actually be a bad idea, but here's a start of an idea. If someone stops playing for a particular amount of time, let's give them 2 weeks or a month. It doesn't matter at the time.
Okay.
And then you can have the deed owner start a countdown for that item or something. So let's say this tent. Let's use this tent as an example. So Pyro, he hasn't played for a specific amount of days, and I can right click and I can do like some sort of eject start of like ejection of some kind. And that could start a countdown timer of maybe 5 days or some other time. And at the end of that, it disappears off of my deed.
Right.
Next time the player logs in, they have the ability to claim those items.
Interesting. That's an interesting idea. Yeah, that's like a kind of compromise where it gets put into like some kind of limbo holding thing. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you can do stuff like Serene you were mentioning. I was thinking about that too. Like that triggers like an email to the person. Like if you care about these items, know that they're gonna get sent off like wherever you had them, and then and also say like, but if you don't make it back in time, they will be in this pool, and you'll have the ability to claim it next time you log in, sort of thing. It's a compromise.
I'm not sure how, but this side of the ramp got messed up a little bit, so I'm gonna try to fix it, round it out a little bit. Whoops.
Yeah, that's weird. Did you dig that side?
Nope. But I'm gonna switch it so that the slope matches a little bit more, and also so that we don't have 2 slopes in a row that are 20.
Well, Drogos, yeah, and I was thinking about that as well. And there's ways around that, because it's on deed, so it obviously the stuff's not going to get decayed anyway. Make it so in that store area, it's going to decay the same way that it would have decayed anywhere else. That would stop that. Yeah. Then you wouldn't be able to just store items there. You can also give a time limit. If you're not back within 4 months or 5 months or 6 months, whatever it is, that those items just disappear.
Eventually decay.
You haven't played in a while, so here's your warning. Same thing happens with the mail.
Right.
In that respect. But I never understood like you could just make items decay like within this sort of storage area like they would have normally anyway. They could do that for a lot of things.